Donald Trump vowed to fight for Britain today as he and Theresa May put on a gushing show of unity in a bid to kill concerns about the state of the special relationship. As Mrs. May nodded in agreement, Mr. Trump said he wanted to correct false rumors that they did not get on. "I think the feeling is mutual from the standpoint of liking each other a lot," he said. "We stand shoulder to shoulder because we face the same challenges around the world." The effusive praise came despite claims of rising tensions, with reports Mr. Trump keeps interrupting the PM on the phone and his state visit invite has turned into a nightmare. There was an extraordinary public row last year after Mr. Trump retweeted anti-Muslim posts by a British far-right group. As the leaders sat awkwardly next to each other for photographs this afternoon, they said they would be talking about the state visit. The leaders have clashed publicly over a series of issues, including Mr. Trump's controversial retweets and his criticism of the Iran nuclear deal. Sitting alongside Mr. Trump, Mrs. May said the special relationship continued to matter because we are facing the same challenges across the world. He said, "The Prime Minister and myself have had a really great relationship, although some people don't necessarily believe that, but I can tell you I have tremendous respect for the Prime Minister and the job she is doing. And I think the feeling is mutual from the standpoint of liking each other a lot." So there was a little bit of a false rumor out there, and I just wanted to correct it, frankly. Mr. Trump said there would be a tremendous increase in trade between our two countries, great for both in terms of jobs. "We look forward to that. We are starting that process pretty much as we speak." The PM and President were bombarded with questions about when Mr. Trump would take up his state visit invite, but he just said they would be talking about the issue. In interviews at the summit in the Swiss ski resort this morning, Mrs. May tried to shrug off the reports of tensions. "The special relationship between America and the UK is as strong as it ever has been," she said. Trump totally dominates the discussion, leaving the Prime Minister with 5 or 10 seconds to speak before he interrupts and launches into another monologue, an insider told Bloomberg. In one phone conversation last year, Mr. Trump reportedly complained to her about the criticism he had been getting in the British press. Amid threats that he would face street protests if he came to the UK, he told her he would not be coming to the UK until she could promise him a warm welcome. According to the report, Mrs. May's advisors listened in to the call from a secure bunker underneath number 10 in astonishment at Trump's demand. Mrs. May reportedly told the president that such treatment was simply the way the British press operate, and there wasn't much he could do. Katie Perrier, Mrs May's communications director until last June's general election, said senior British civil servants in both the UK and US wanted Mrs May to keep her distance from the volatile Mr Trump until he had been in office longer, and warned against rushing into offering him a state visit. She said it was clear to her, and others at the time, that such an invitation was over the top and unnecessary. However, number 10 co-chiefs of staff Nick Timothy and Fiona Hill were anxious to strengthen relations with the US and achieve a post-Brexit trade deal. It was argued that inviting Mr Trump and his wife to stay at Buckingham Palace and throwing a state banquet for him would appeal to Trump's vanity. The two chiefs of staff made a secret trip to the US and made arrangements for Mrs May to come to Washington. Mr Trump was delighted, comparing their relationship to the bond between Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan as he reportedly told aides, "She'll be my Maggie." Although the Queen no longer takes long-haul flights and would not visit the US even if invited, Jim Messina, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff under Barack Obama, described Mr. Trump's invitation to Mr. Macron as unprecedented. He said, "Tradition has been, when I was the President's Deputy Chief of Staff, that your first state visit is always the UK," he said. He's breaking with tradition, but that's probably not surprising with this president. Insiders say it was clear from their first meeting that the Trump-May relationship would be tricky. She spoke up to correct him, said Chris Wilkins, who was there. It was an hour of the president holding court, and the PM being very diplomatic, and not many other people saying anything, he said. Mrs. May has since repeatedly clashed publicly with Mr. Trump over issues such as intelligence leaks, the Iran nuclear deal, the recent terror attack in Manchester, and Mr. Trump's controversial retweeting of a British far-right anti-Muslim activist. British officials believe Mr. Trump is still angry with Downing Street.As. The Daily Mail was the first to reveal he cancelled a trip to London next month to open the new US embassy. Mr. Trump is expected to use his time in Davos to confirm he is inviting French leader Emmanuel Macron on a state visit to the US, rubbing salt into the wound for Britain.